Guy Gravino, Command Sergeant Major, Special Forces, Green Beret, man about town, father, and a longtime friend. Welcome to Instincts.
Oh, thanks, Marty. Good to see you.
Man, I'll tell you what. We were just talking about, we have told so many stories to each other for so many years that we're actually worried that we may run out of stories.
Well, let's hope not on the
Or if we tell the same stories, our eyes will start glassing over.
Well,
like, that
start to embellish, she'll be fine.
Well, my daughter got me a T-shirt when it's in Australia, Tara. This is a couple years ago because I was writing books, right? So she gets me a T-shirt and says "Master Embellisher." That was that.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. It was pretty good. Inside family joke.
Right.
Well, maybe not an inside joke.
Right.
People that know me know,
Right.
But if you write novels, you have to be an embellisher.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And I have had people say, well, are you still like involved in certain things? No. When you can't do it anymore, you embellish on what you did. And that's a great philosophy for that I throw out there.
And it's very safe to say, I would go if I could.
Right.
I would be right there.
If I wasn't getting my hair done that tomorrow, I'd go.
Shoulder to shoulder if it wasn't for the gout.
That's right.
Which, by the way, I'm not getting any money from the VA for because they didn't recognize it as service-connected gout.
Where's the love? Where's the love from the VA on that? I don't know.
It's out there somewhere.
It's got to be.
Yeah, because
it's got to be. It's floating around the universe somewhere. I haven't seen it, but if you see it, let me know.
No, you're disabled?
I am.
Not the mental part. I'm talking about the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I am.
You're okay. Yeah. I've been pretty lucky with my disability. It's mostly the back problem from a parachute accident, but I haven't had to jump out of airplanes since I got out of the Navy, so it's not good. It inhibits my parachute jumping.
Well, they have that phantom jump up in by Kissimmee. If you want to go over and hurt your back some more, just go over and pay a couple $100. You can jump out. They're doing water jumps though. You'll like that.
Nah, I mean it was skydiving or military free fall, and I had somewhere between 750 and 760. I don't have my jump log handy, but that was just the skydive jumps, not the static line jumps.
Right.
And that accident happened on the skydive jump. So I was worried. Everybody's worried on the static line. And you went to Benning?
Oh yeah,
for jump school.
Yeah,
Army jump school in Fort Benning, and as I did.
October 1975.
Wow, that's
and I one other little thing about that. I'm the only guy I know that went through with a mustache all the way to the end. Back then, the Army was changing their rules and said, okay, you can have a mustache, but it's got to be off your lip and it's got to be real trimmed and it can't go beyond your lips here, And I showed up with a mustache. First day in the PT pit, they gave a break and Sergeant Carter came over and bent me over screaming. The spittles hit me in the face. I was horrified and cost me 200 push-ups. And then when he got done dressing me down, he said, get out of here. And I turned and ran into a black hat who was about this tall. And he said, he hit me. And I'm like, I didn't hit you. And
black hats were the instructors, right?
Black hats were the instructors. And it cost me, and then he said, you'll have that off tomorrow. And at that point, I said, no, I won't. And he went, yes, you will. No, I won't. And when I got done, my arms were as big as my legs. But I was standing there in that formation doing this when they took that picture.
Yeah. They don't do that anymore in the SEAL teams. They don't go to Army jump school. But it's kind of neat nostalgia, watching the Green Berets with John Wayne.
Right.
For the 40th or 50th time. I'm talking about you, not me. I've seen it. Because I know you guys, you forget the words to the song.
Every day I wake up with it.
You forget the words to Barry Sadler songs. You have to watch the movie.
No, you don't forget it when you're singing it every day.
And off screen, I'll ask you about the whole jump and die part of that, the lyrics there. I never got that. Didn't seem like a good mission statement. So, but if you watch the Green Beret, there's a point in the early stage before he goes into Vietnam where they go by the 250 foot
tower, yeah.
And that's nostalgia-wise. I'm like, hey, honey, look, see those things? Yeah, I got dropped from those things.
Right.
And what do you think she said?
No.
She said, why? Good question.
Yeah.
Good question.
It's an Army thing.
It was an Army thing, but that was a good school.
Yeah.
Progressively, And it was the first school I went to after going through SEAL training, because they start you, with PLFs in that sawdust pit,
Yeah.
right? And you're jumping off of a platform from 4 feet, 5 feet, learning techniques. And they progressively start bringing you up to where you're sliding down cables and all these different little things, even the
swing landing trainer.
Oh yeah. And then the ground mock-up. So you get in the tube that's the same size as the aircraft.
Yeah.
Eventually you get to the 250-foot tower, and then all that.
Don't forget the 34-foot.
That's right. And then all of that goes away when they actually take you up, and you can't see anything because everybody's jammed in that thing, and all of a sudden it's like, light, door, gone, and you're out, right?
Yeah, kind of anticlimactic, until somebody starts screaming, "Man with the malfunction, pull your reserve," and everybody's checking their shoes again.
Reserves. As much as we've talked, and we've, for the audience, you and I think I gave a speech in Maryland one year, and you were in the crowd. You came up and introduced yourself, and you had put together a consulting company called Whiskey 7. And we talked a little bit, and then we talked a little bit more. And then with all the post 9/11 stuff that was going on, we decided to form our own little gig, Guardian Group International, and then start looking for jobs to do, all to protect the homeland, help people.
We had a couple good ones.
We had some great ones. Yeah. Of course, we weren't necessarily superstar businessmen.
Right.
And, when...
That came for you later.
But, we kept running into, somebody's cousin got the job.
Right.
Or some ex-cop got the job. So it didn't matter.
Especially after the interview. You told them how you knew how to do this.
Yeah, I learned that lesson. Yeah. Don't give them...
We don't need him now.
Here's the secret sauce.
We'll give it to Johnny.
Yeah. Thanks for the secret sauce.
Right.
I'm going to give it to my friend who's a cop. But that's how we really got started.
Yeah.
I don't know, even when we were in Greece with Athens and in Baghdad together, I don't think you ever really told me your early days, like your early story. And what I'd like to ask guests is, as far back as it makes sense to, that it's relevant, kind of what shaped you, if anything did, when you were a kid, or contributed to your core value system or whatever. And a lot of times it's not even in your youth. You have some significant emotional event whether it's like a drill instructor who gets you straight or something happens, right? Later on in life. But is there anything in your early years, say before you joined the Army?
Well, I was the oldest of 4. So, my mother and father were a little bit more on me than the others because I was the first one they were trying to actually make right. And the other ones, they start slacking off, as a parent,
Were you born with that mustache?
I was born with this.
That helps.
And now it's starting to look like my flesh. It was dark at one time. But sports, I was into the sports. I had a group of guys I hung with, but I had really no intentions of going in the military. I started going down a wrong path, and I really didn't have the education. I got married early, started off in the wrong direction. And I realized that I'm really not going to get anywhere unless I get that education and separate myself from this. So I decided that I was going to go in the Army. Actually, I looked at the Navy first, but I scored too high. So I had to go in the Army instead. And
they would have had to make you like an instant admiral or
something. And it was like not doable at the time.
Yeah.
So I started off as a nothing in the Army, and I qualified to be in intelligence. I know it's an oxymoron, but I was in intelligence. And
you spell that with 1 or 2 L's?
I don't know. That's a trick question. I know.
An intelligence question.
Right. And so when I was in school, and I'm running next to a young lady singing she wants to be an airborne ranger, and the inequalities of the performance standards. And it kind of like made me think that, I don't think I want to be doing this like this. And one day some paratroopers walked in and said, "Who wants to be a paratrooper?" And my hand went up. I don't know why, but it did. And I called my father and said, "Hey, Dad, I'm going to be a paratrooper." And he said, "Like hell you are." And I said, "No, I'm going to do it." And then he was like, "You're not doing it." And he started going through his thing that we do. And I was, "You're bringing up Dad. I love you. Bye." No,
wow, you weren't even a communicator.
No, I knew to do that. That was probably from my hoodlum days. And,
or from the Sans Iwo Jima or
yeah,
the Green Beret movie.
Or one of those movies.
Yeah.
And then I was sent down to Benning. Within minutes at Benning, I already pissed off the senior tac who was up there, who called everybody outside. There was no beds available. I got to the third floor, finally found a bunk, and they said, yeah, you can use. Nobody's in that one. Go ahead. So I was in that bunk. Whistle blew. Everybody ran outside. I was still in my Class A's, which were loaded with nothing. And everybody was running out the door. You're not supposed to run your Class A's, but I was running out that door because it was like a fire drill. And I'm standing in formation, and the senior tac, who I can't remember his name, and I probably wouldn't identify him anyway, was up there talking like that. People move like pond water. You better start moving like lightning, sound like thunder. And I'm going, what the hell did he say? Did you hear what he said? And he's like, hey, you funny boy, get up here. So I was up there, and that was my first introduction with the airborne community. Cost me CQ, which wasn't a big deal. And
I just got a flash of chasing dust bunnies down the hallway in that stupid thing. Remember dust bunnies?
Oh, I do. But when I was on CQ, they actually took, I was, every time the door opened, it was blowing that sign-in sheet down the hall. I was chasing that.
Oh, yeah. The dust bunny, little tiny, like tumbleweeds, dust and crap.
Yeah.
That if you got gigged when they inspected the place, they'd be hell to pay and everything. And
if one hit you, it could knock you over.
Well, they call them nurdles in Officers Canada School in the Navy. They call them nurdles. It's an acronym that I didn't remember, but it's the same problem.
Same problem.
Doors open up. You see stuff move. I thought I had that.
Right.
Yeah.
Get it quick.
Right up to the second of the inspection.
Right.
Looking for these things.
I want to max this. I want to be the performer. I ended up going to the 82nd Airborne. And as soon as I got there, I met my newest bestest friends. They introduced me to the lieutenant. I walked out. The lieutenant says, Gravino, I want you back in here. So I came back in. He said, I want you to go to recondo school. I went, oh, okay, sir. Sure. And I got out of there. And my newest bestest friends, who I met 5 minutes before that, said, you do not want to go out there. And I went, why not? He said, it's horrible. You don't want to go out there. And I said, oh, nothing's that bad. So went out the next day, saw the graduating class, was in the lieutenant's office there. Sorry, I don't want to go. And he went, well, you're going to Gravino. And I had no idea about, in the officer's evaluation, their OERs, the support form that they had, where they said they're going to do something.
Right. And
they had to get it done. Well, he must have wrote in there.
Sure. Plus, it was a really kind of a smart way to get rid of the guy with the mustache.
Right. They probably sent something up from Beret.
Sure.
So I got through it. He told me, he says, if you get through that school, we haven't had anybody get through it. If you get through that school, I'll take care of you. And I'm going, all right, okay. So out of 80 some guys that went out there, 23 graduated. I happened to be one of them. But I heard a story being told the other day. I don't know if it was Us on the Side or something, but about not knowing really what you're supposed to do. And I did not know anything about patrolling. I didn't know anything about assaulting. I was an intelligence guy.
Right.
Who went to jump school and then ended up in recondo school with all these guys that were grunts and were doing it forever. And I'm standing there, and the ranger sergeant is saying, all right, here's the situation. And he's giving it to him, and I'm standing there picking my nose and trying to get a cat nap in between. And he goes, do you understand the situation? He said, yes, ranger sergeant. He goes, you're now the patrol leader. What are you going to do? And I went, and I looked around for somebody with an EIB. I was smart enough to look for somebody that knew and then identify.
EIB
is an expert infantry badge.
Okay, gotcha.
You are now my APL. What do we do?
That's great.
And I got through it. He didn't.
Is it inappropriate to have the instructor be your APL?
Right. I was like, yeah, I don't think he would have. He would have liked that question.
Been like a level 3 move there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But got through that, and I made E5 in 17 months from the time I enlisted.
See, like a SEAL instructor would have saw that. That's a good move.
Yeah.
You're now wounded.
Yeah, that's right.
now you got to carry the guy with the EIB. And you're still in charge.
Right, that's right. Now what do you do? I don't know. But, got through it. But the funny thing is the guy who I counted on and he was great. He didn't make it. And back then they had an old system. I don't know if they still use it or not, but they use the same system they did in Ranger School. You start off with 1,000 points, and if you don't max everything, they're taking points from you. You needed 700 to get through, and he came up short of 700 and didn't make it. So it was probably very good for me to go through that because I had no idea on how to do it. So
that wouldn't have worked at basic SEAL training because we couldn't count more than like 30 up to the number 30.
Right.
Then we'd start over with.
Right. Well, then, yeah, but you had your shoes on at the time, right? Your boots?
Yeah, you're right. We could have gone to 20.
Could have gone all the way there.
But then we still would have,
right.
To 30. But anyway, that's a smart Army system, that whole 1,000-point thing.
Yeah, I thought it was. I mean, I didn't really understand it at the time. So that's how I got started in the Army.
That's very interesting. I don't think a lot of this I've heard lately, and you're a host of your own podcast, Guy Talk. So I've kind of absorbed things that you and I haven't talked about directly, but so the point of this podcast, kind of the theme of this podcast, is instincts, and it's not a theory of mine; it's just an observation over time, my life, other people's lives, that you don't always go in a linear path towards something that we call a success in life. It can be personal, it can be professional. And when you do a jink or you jag in a different weird direction, if you go back and kind of inspect that moment and say, well, why did I do that? People will ask me in interviews, well, why did you decide to do that? Why did you decide to go in the Navy? Because I wanted to get out of Nebraska in a bad family situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it? Yeah. I mean, there was nothing more. I went
nothing profound.
I went in to join the Marine Corps, chickened out, and joined the Navy. Wow, you chickened out going to the Marine Corps. But then you became a SEAL. How'd you become a SEAL? They screwed up my orders from radar school. They sent me to SEAL training, and a master chief talked me into volunteering, and that's how I became a SEAL. So I start looking like an idiot, right? I'm not the calculating cool guy writing strategy books.
Right.
I'm the idiot who just kind of wandered around
with the flow,
bumping into things, right?
With the flow, yeah.
But when you go back and really think about that, were you conscious? And you already said that, hey, you want to go to Recondo school? Yeah, okay. Because you didn't know what Recondo school was, but something about your personality, you were open to it, and you weren't afraid of trying something different. Not everybody's like that. And so you came to the Army with this part of your personality formed. But did you, as you were moving through your Army career, did you ever feel like a gut pull, like, I think this is the wrong thing to do, this is the right thing to do, because it just feels a certain way, and not always attribute it to specific training?
For me, it was like, I think I recognized that I was fairly good at it. And I liked that challenge. I liked the adrenaline. It was a drug of choice almost. I liked those men. I got out. I got 3 DD-214s. And
the certificate they give you when you get out of the service.
When you get out. So I got 3 of them because I couldn't make up my mind what I really wanted to do, I guess. But
or you're just a collector.
Collector, like coins.
Yeah.
But I
paper bling.
Yeah. But I decided to. It was like, I really missed being around those guys when I got out the first time. Just men, those type of men. And so.
And that was for people that haven't been around those kinds of people, how would you describe those types of men? I mean, because nowadays there's a push that if you're a man and you're automatically toxic, or the things that make you quote unquote a man under the old, say, 1950s definition are not valuable anymore and all that. But I think I understand where you're going to go with this answer. But for people that have never been around a bunch of 82nd Airborne guys, I mean, what is it that is a positive that you would miss?
There was an esprit de corps. There was a commitment to each other. Although you might have like banged heads with them. I just had a guy down for Veterans Day who we used to torment all the time. He was an enlisted swine, turned to the dark side and became an officer, kind of like yourself. And he
the hardest part of becoming an officer, by the way, was putting on all the black robes and stuff. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and the chanting.
The chanting.
But he came down, and we were doing this Veterans Day thing with people collecting, coming back together, rallying, and two of them showed up this year. My old team sergeant and this other guy, this officer guy, and we'll just say his name's Bill. And we went out, and by the end of the weekend, where I just got to talk to him and this guy, I was like, we were constantly at each other. And by the end of it, I was like, man, I had no idea you were a cool guy until this year. I mean, how did that happen? But that there was, even in that running gun battle that you were having with somebody, and it was mostly just, just words back and forth and little zings and trying to slow people down. But it was still that challenge, and it was still that respect for each other.
A baseline respect.
Respect.
Which the Army is really good at that. I mean, they have lots of badges for lots of different technical training, but if you see somebody with an 82nd, 101st or Ranger Regiment badge pin, you know the medal of the people that were allowed, like
yes.
the 1,000-point rule, right? There was a screening process, there was a vetting process.
Yeah.
And even if you don't like somebody or they're irritating, whatever, everybody in there can all dunk the basketball. There's a certain minimum standard of work ethic, drive, courage, and commitment.
Yeah. An example of that, there was a guy in our unit who went to dive school with, and he and I did not get along. Not at all. And I always thought he was annoying. I thought he was a pain in the ass. And underwater navigation swim, 1,500 meters. 250 meters, you had to hit that point, 125 on each side. You didn't hit it, you didn't pass it. He missed it the first time. You want to do it again. And he did it again. And he missed it again. And they said to him, do you want to do it again? And I was like, no way, he's doing it again. And he did it again, and he hit it. And now, 1 out of 3 isn't good when you're trying to navigate underwater. But the tenacity that he showed, it was like, I got a whole new respect for you. And whenever I congratulate him. And so welcome to the team, man.
So you came back into the Army because you kind of missed that. And what did you do when you came? I mean, was there a special contract in those days? You came in, or
I did a and I went back in. I went back in the Army Guard, and I did a burst of 1 year. And I did the 12 months, and I was like, man, this isn't bad. These guys are pretty good, too. And they were Vietnam veterans there. My old team sergeant was with 5th Group in Nam. Had guys from 10th, guys from 5th.
So you were a Green Beret at this point?
No, I was a wannabe.
Okay, but you had the Green Beret influence in there, and
yes,
guys were.
I was trying out. I was a wannabe, and I started going through the training. And got an opening to go to the school. I got to do everything twice. They started to try to put me through the correspondence course, and I went, this isn't working for me.
For SFQ
to be yeah. They had it way back when. I said, this isn't working for me.
So that wasn't a rumor, because we all thought you guys all went through the correspondence course. Sorry, you opened the door on that one.
I did, and I was going to shut it now.
All right, so you decided not to take the Special Forces qualification.
No, I took it, and I did finally. I said, but it's not working for me. I said, I need to go down there. So I went down to McCall in 82. And it was an experience. Colonel Bob Howard was the commandant. He was a major then. And Bob Howard's, renowned through the community. He was put in for the Medal of Honor 3 times.
Wow.
And you can only get it once. And he was the commandant down there. And he gave us our opening speech and stuff. And he started talking about, man, can you throw a knife and make a stick in a tree? And of course, everybody after that was out there throwing their knives until one guy cut his nose off.
Oh,
threw a knife, ricocheted off, cut his nose off, and he was running around holding. I was like, oh my God.
Knife throwing class is secretly called knife dodging class.
Right. So so they wanted to collect everybody's knives. So he didn't want anybody throwing knives again. It was like, They always got to play to the lowest common denominator.
We got rubber bayonets in hand-to-hand combat because of that.
And of course, as the medics are taking them away, it's like, you're not going to get any dates for a while, dude. You're being drugged out. And that's the kind of stuff that gets you coming back and laughing. Even though the guy cut his nose off, he's still giving you the finger as he's being drugged off because everybody's teasing him. And that's the kind of guy you were looking for. And so got through the training. I came back, thought I was a hot shot, had my brand new green beret on, wasn't even formed yet, I was trying to look like a bad dude. And Joe says, Guy, get up there and tell, Guy, listen up, everybody. Guy just got back from school. He's going to get up there. He's going to tell everybody what they're teaching down there now. He's going to give us the new doctrine. And I got up there and I gave my spiel. And I got done. I did one of these, and Joe goes, are you done? And I said, yeah. He said, all right, sit down, shut up. We'll tell you how it's going to be. So just like that, from top of the ladder to the bottom of the ladder again, just like that. So
I got the empty the trash can.
Right.
Medal of Honor winner. It was my leading enlisted guy, my first platoon. I walk into the office that they call platoon huts. And this guy, I was terrified of him because he was also an instructor when I went through SEAL training. Big, huge guy, Mike Thornton. He's sitting in there. And I walk in and I start like almost shaking because I'm like, how the hell did he get here? Because I'm on the East Coast.
He's following.
And the training is in California. And he looks up and he says, can I help you? And I said, I was told to come down to the 3rd platoon. I'm going to be in the 3rd platoon. He goes, oh, that's right. Strong, right? Yeah. And he goes, okay. I'm the LPO to the platoon. All right. Anything you want me to do? But right now, your only job is to make sure that these trash cans, which they call shit cans, these trash cans are always empty.
Right.
All day long. I don't ever want to see
big responsibility.
I don't ever want to see one of these trash cans past the halfway point.
Huh.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're qualified to deal with that, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then he looks down and then he looks out and goes,
we'll get to it.
Yeah, there's 3 of them in this office. Get moving. And I'm like, same thing. SEAL training, jump school.
Right.
Went through a 4-month intermediary school.
Right.
Now I is one.
Right.
No.
Yeah, you're not yet.
No. For a while. Turns out.
Well, I had that same type of thing happen when I got back from recondo school. This was back in the old 82nd days, and it was like, sweep the floor, mop the floor, empty the trash. But after about a month of it, I said, hey, you guys, you guys need to start helping. Yeah, whatever. Get to it. So I showed up, and we were talking about neat Army badges.
Yeah.
I had my novice parachute wings here. So I took a double-edged tape, and I drew a bucket and a mop and a broom cross over it. And I slapped it on my uniform for morning formation. First Sergeant Miller was going down checking everybody's uniform, and he was looking for starch being broke back then.
Yeah.
And he saw that on there, and he was just a little guy. And he almost ripped that cotton fatigues off my body. And I was like going back, scrambling backwards, and everybody in the formation was laughing their ass off. And afterwards, a guy named John Springer, he was an early mentor, looked at me and went, Guy. Someday you'll have your day, but it's not today.
But the feeling, people have been in the military before understand this. It's like going to college, probably like the same thing as professional sports teams. You just came out of a whole period of time of trying. You were stupid in the beginning and you get a degree, or you're stupid in the beginning and you get on the team. And then you're the rookie. You show up. If you're in business, you think you understand finance or economics, whatever it is that you got your degree in, and then you step out into your first company and you get the same thing. You get make sure that there's enough sticky notes out on the conference room table for the meeting.
Right.
Okay, should I prepare? No, you don't need to prepare for anything. Just get the sticky notes. As a matter of fact, get a pen for each one of this.
And make sure the colors are different.
Yeah. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I went to, Brown University, or I went to, and I got I was a summa cum laude, and nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Right? Because now you're in a whole different level of play, and you got to earn your stripes all over again.
Right. That cycle.
Yeah. So, this was kind of a theme with your National Guard period and going into Special Forces Q course, qualification course. Do you remember the impression that combat veterans as leaders or combat veterans as just people in a unit made on you?
Yeah. We had a guy, when I was, I got in right as the Vietnam War was ending. I am considered a Vietnam era vet. I enlisted in February of 75, and I actually left on March of 75. So I'm considered a Vietnam era vet. So by the time the drill sergeants, a lot of them were Vietnam vets. Matter of fact, I remember one had a star on his jump wings, and I asked him, shouldn't have asked him, but I did. Well, what exactly is that? Does that mean? And his reply was, "It means I'm a hero." And I went, "Okay, that was a dumb question. Yes, I should have never asked that question." I remember when I was going through recondo school, and I just completed the 40-foot rope drop into a river that was 23 degrees when we hit that water. And I already been in the water a couple times already. So I was getting pretty chilly. And I reported Recondo Gravino, roster number 73, reports completion for, "What's that shit under your nose, Recondo?" And I went, "Snot Ranger Sergeant." Back then you could cuss. You're not cussing anymore. And he said, "Get back in that water. You don't report to me like that." So I'm and he just sat up there and said, "Hey, you looking like, quit shivering, Recondo." He said, "I don't get cold. I got a tab." And I went, "I'm going to use that line someday."
And the tab was the Recondo.
The Ranger. The
patch.
Ranger.
Oh, the
tab.
Ranger patch.
Yeah.
Oh.
They had Rangers training the Recondos.
Yeah.
And Recondo school started when Westmoreland was in Vietnam.
Trying to accelerate the number of kind of like Ranger qualified guys.
Right. And they used to tell us, Ranger school's 3 times longer, but we make this 3 times harder.
I think they tried to start an actual Ranger school in Vietnam too, because there was a controversy years later that if you didn't go through the U.S. Ranger course and you went through the one in Vietnam, that didn't count, or you had to go back through. Definitely Recondo.
Right.
You weren't allowed to wear the Recondo thing from Vietnam if you went it. But the testosterone and the ego involved in special operations, which is part of the confidence level being expressed, right?
Sure.
It also kind of blinds you and makes you act stupid and say and do stupid stuff. You went
constantly.
You did this. You didn't go to a patch. Like, oh, I've got a better patch than you. And look at, if that guy would have asked me about that. Like you asked about the star, I would have said, "I'm a Texas Ranger, and I get the hell."
I'll lock you up
because you didn't have a right to ask questions. You were like a lower form of life at every stage, and the combat guys. Did you feel like they grounded the training, or they made it more realistic? Were they engaged that way?
Well, I think there was. I think most of the time they were more focused. A lot of times they didn't care about things too. The Vietnam guys just didn't care. No, I'm not doing that. But being in division, after I got through the Recondo school, they have what's called at the time what's called DRB and DRF. DRB was Division Readiness Brigade. Division Readiness Force was a battalion in that brigade that as soon as something happened, boom, they were gone. So getting through Recondo school kind of gave me like a little bit more knowledge. So we're going to put him on that, and you're going to go. Well, I was in when Idi Amin took those 246 Americans in Uganda.
Right.
And the intelligence, we're supposed to be the guys that were telling the rest of the guys what the enemies was doing.
The Entebbe airport. Yeah.
Right. Well, we were in formation for PT in these nasty PT outfits we had, and they were just nasty. And here comes this guy, full kitted up, the rag top head, all camoed up and stuff. Drives right up in front of our barracks between us and the building, grabs the commander, who was a major, and gives him the lowdown. And the commander comes back and says, "DRF and DRB fall out on your gear. You're out of here." And I was like, but the Vietnam veteran guys didn't. They just shifted right into that mode again.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of learning to do there. I knew that then.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, when that whole thing went down in the Cubans were going into not Uganda,
Angola?
Angola.
Mm-hmm.
We got stood up. So I was probably 19, maybe. So I'd been there about a year at SEAL Team 2. And 120-man SEAL team, we probably had, at that point in time, 20 of us weren't Vietnam vets.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else was, multiple tour guys. And I remember we were told that we were going to go to Angola. And so we had a warning order in the conference room. And it was the same thing you said. All of the 20 of us that had never been in combat were either giddy or were very quiet.
A lot of self-reflection.
Well, yeah, am I ready? Do I know enough? Because we're surrounded by all these guys that were in war. And I had guys on either side of me that were multiple tour combat vets. And they were just
smooth.
They looked like they were putting together shit for a picnic with their wife or something.
Right, they're smooth.
And I didn't want to do or say the wrong thing because I didn't want a rep that I was, freaking out about this whole idea. Not freaking out that I didn't want to go, freaking out that I was going to make a mistake.
Right.
That I'd be, I wanted to own and measure up.
Right.
By the way I acted.
Because you didn't have to empty the trash anymore.
That's right.
So now you had to.
And there was a guy, guy next to me named Ruggles, and one of the few Vietnam vets that were nice to the new guys. And he just kind of looked over at me and he said, do this, do that, do this, put that over here. Got plenty of time. We're not going anywhere. It's going to take at least a couple of days to get everything ready.
Mm-hmm.
And by then they'll probably decide whether we go or we don't go.
Right.
And then if we do go, we're not going in to Africa. We'll get staged someplace. We're looking at least a week to 10 days. Save your energy.
Mm-hmm.
I went,
breathe.
Okay. And then I emulated on the outside how they were acting and followed his instructions. And he was right. We never did go. We got briefing after briefing after briefing and we didn't go. And of course, I didn't know that was the way it is in special operations, right?
Right.
You hurry up and wait. You're told you're going to go. And when you're a young guy, your adrenaline spikes. You run around like a freaking rabbit. And all the old seasoned guys are like, it's the 15th time this happened this year. Right. We're not going to go here. We're not going to go there. We're not getting down pilots in Colombia. We're not going to, but we're going to act like we're going to.
Right.
Because depending on the president at the time, you may or may not ever be getting permission to do those things.
Yeah. And when I was down there, it was Carter.
Yeah. Well, it was Carter then, for the Angola thing.
Right.
So we can get a little bit kind of into the psychology of Guy Gravino.
I usually don't do well with that, but go ahead.
Well, you've got your own style of psychology. They don't have like a book like that. No. That Guy Gravino, that's something that still needs to be done. But I know you. You have a pretty strong, forceful sense of right, wrong, what should or shouldn't be done. And we can segue into our time together in Baghdad after this, but I want to kind of in your head, when did you start to develop, I'll call it the Guy Gravino brand of leadership, the Guy Gravino brand of your outlook on the world, the universe, not necessarily just the army, but people, things, the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things. Yeah.
I don't know. Being an oldest, I always, tried to overwatch my younger brother. He was only maybe 15 months younger than me, but we kind of ran in the same group, and we kind of always ran with an older group. A lot of times he was getting himself in a little bit of trouble with some of the older guys, and I was, constantly sticking up for him. So I had to learn how to take care of myself very young, and I didn't do bad at it. So started to develop that strong sense of, I guess, a guardian for him and my two sisters. And then I got married, had the same sense. And then it was like, I can't, it was back during the oil embargo, right after that oil embargo, 75, 70, 73, 74. And it was like, I can't find work and I got to get to work. And I could not find work. So it was like, well, I'm going to try I'm going to do the military. And that was a big step. My father did not want me to go. My father was a master sergeant. and he didn't want me going. I was like, what do you want me to do? Rob 7-Elevens? I'm not doing it. I'm going to go do something positive. I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity. And then I started to realize that I was pretty good at it. And my wife at the time did not want this, for me to continue. And I said, okay, and got out, and then realized that, that's a piece of me that's missing. And then once I started figuring out that group was the way to go, it wasn't like being regimented, which we were talking about earlier with the more free thinkers, more, you had your stuff that you had to do and you had to stay within the lines, color within the lines. And it was semi-disciplined, but, where you're getting yelled at for your hands being in your pocket, we were known for it.
As Green Berets.
As Green Berets. And, we had that hat that everybody, you killed yourself trying to earn, like you tried it. And, but once we got it, most of the time it was in our pocket. It was kind of like a, it was a little.
And we tried wearing the trident on our head, but it kept sliding off.
Well, you got to stick it harder. Just stick it harder.
Oh, okay. Oh, in the front. So we were putting it on the top.
There you go. It falls right off.
1,000-point thing again. You guys are a lot smarter.
I got 700 plus. So, anyway, I guess that's what it was. But, and I guess that thing kind of like bled off from my siblings and not my children. My children were, everything. But when it came time for Desert Storm and we were pulling out, my children were a little worried, but I told them, I said, look, I want to do this and everything will be fine and you'll be fine. And, so, pulling away from that house, and I was, they came to get me. And I threw my gear in, we were taking off. And I remember sitting there, it was in a van. I was looking at that side windows and they were all on the porch. And, it was like one of those things. Am I leaving them to, I have to do this.
Right.
Am I doing the right thing? You're doing that questioning thing in your mind. And then years later, my son is deploying for his first time into Iraq. And, I knew all those anxieties that he was having. I had all the ones, because I felt them with Angola. And I equated those two. And then a friend of mine called me and said, hey, we need you in Baghdad.
Well, I needed Command Sergeant Major Gravino, because I've never really seen you anxious. I've never really seen you. You don't wear it on the outside for sure. And I get the impression, knowing you, that at some point, there's some guys you just see and they're brand new in the military, and you go, that guy's gonna be an officer someday, or that guy's gonna be, an E7, EA. He's gonna be a senior enlisted guy. He's got the demeanor. Is there something about him? He's comfortable doing those kinds of things. Where other people, you see him, they're like, and you're like, there's no way that guy. Then what happens? 10 years later, you go, hell, he made it. He's an officer, that Huckleberry guy. So you're not always right. But you, when I first met you, it was clear you had a very well-established kind of outlook on things, your mindset, about people, about projects. And I'm talking about all elements of projects, the details, the planning, the sanity related to them or not. So, right. So when we had a problem in Baghdad and we needed somebody to square away a bunch of people and a bunch of very serious things, people getting, people that were going to get shot at every day, who do you bring in? And this is when I wasn't in the military. So how do we bring in somebody that's going to not just fix it, but level set it and then improve it? Mm-hmm. And so, knowing you for those years, I said, well, I know the guy. I mean, this guy's like right out of central casting for this particular thing.
Well, thanks for that.
There's a great movie, The Siege at Firebase Gloria, and Army, he's in it. And he's, it's a Marine recon group. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not, but I am familiar with it.
You have to look it up.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
It's a Marine Force recon group, and it's just before Tet Offensive, and they kill a bunch of VC, and they get a bunch of intel, and they go to the closest fire base, which is an Army fire base. Mm-hmm. And they had all the cliche, all the Army guys are smoking, pot. The officer's smoking pot. He's completely out of it, doesn't care. And none of the guns have been serviced, the 50 caliber machine guns. And it's just, they did like a half-ass job setting up.
Well, timing and headspace wasn't working. They weren't doing any of that.
You just stole my thunder.
Sorry.
So Army comes in. He's got his second. He's an enlisted guy. He's like an E9 Marine, and number 2 guy is probably like an E7 Marine. You got Donardo, and they come in there and they're walking around and they're like, "Oh my God, what the hell is this?" And don't you guys know there's about to be a major offensive and we got this intel and all this stuff. Things are moving. Charlie's on the march. Well, in the movie they do in parallel. They're showing the North Vietnamese army,
right,
moving in, coming in, and they're starting to do reconnaissance on this Fort operating base. Well,
and these guys going,
yeah. So the scene, and you got to see the movie. And anybody out there that hasn't seen the movie, watch the movie, because then you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Army, senior, enlisted guy, Marine, starts walking the perimeter. I want that brush cut back by another brush. I want a killing field out here. We need mortar sighted in over here. When was the last time you timed that 50 cal, son? I want that done right here. I want ammo staged here. I want another trench here. I want to read out. And he's going around this whole thing going bam, 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 bam.
Right. Where's my PDTs?
He's doing all that. And, and they get it ready. And of course, the movie, they do get attacked and they survive because of what he did, right?
Yeah.
But that was my image of you in the moment where we were having that issue. And I said, I know the guy.
Well, funny story with that. And when we were in Baghdad and we thought they were coming in over the 13th July Street Bridge or 14th? 14th July Street Bridge. And we got the notification. We got up on the roof. So now it's the Alamo. And I had everybody in their sectors of fire. And I'm going around telling them, giving them instructions, and then settle down. And I said, all right, everybody turn your phone off. Everybody's turning their phone. My phone rings. And they all went and looked over at me, and I'm going like, hey, I'm important. You guys get your phones off. And I bounced down behind the wall and went, Blackwater guy. And it was my father. And he goes, hey, guy, how you doing? A little busy right now, Dad. He goes, what's going on? I said, I don't know. The horde's ready to come over this bridge, and we're about to kick their ass. He goes, you better not get hurt. And I'm like, don't worry. We got them surrounded. I'll call you later. I hung up. And everybody's going, what was that? And I went, don't worry about it. Just keep your eyes on your sector.
My daddy's arranging extra ammo.
You're right. He's having it shipped. Don't worry. It's overnight.
I had that moment talking to my wife, and she called me at 6:00 in the morning. And it was in that period where every day for 30 days they were shelling and mortaring and rocketing the green zone. And so she calls at 6:00. I swing my legs out of bed. Hi, hon. And then and the sirens start going off. My encrypted radio starts, everything's going crazy. Right? And I'm holding the phone going, that's how's everything going? Great.
Right.
I'm fine.
Right.
That's good. It's like, things are going on. And I'm in a single wide trailer. Like,
right.
I'm not really going to stop anything.
Right.
And trying to get get dressed and stuff. Yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah.
It's beautiful here.
It was so bizarre because it wasn't supposed to be, a war, but we're getting rocketed and mortared as civilians trying to, But I told that story a long time afterwards.
Right.
Not in the moment.
Right. And I mean, it happened several times over, but after a while you start, like what you're saying, you were like just taking it in stride. I was going up to the embassy on Thanksgiving 2004 with Mike Rush. All of a sudden you hear the 107s come in. And they landed about 150 meters, 200 meters behind us. And I'm looking, you hear them whistling in, and we're just sitting there and because we were going through a security check. So we were stuck, couldn't go forward, couldn't go backwards. We both just sat there, and they were coming close, and they hit, and neither one of us moved. And Mike's looking in the rear mirror on the side, and I looked up at the one here because I was driving. And I was like, holy shit. The palm trees were all burning. It went right into the Gurkha camp.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, so you kind of almost start getting used to it.
Yeah. I mean, but you get used to it, desensitized to it, and had lots of, Rangers, 82nd, 101st working for me, SF guys. And the topic of discussion was every day was how lousy these guys were at aiming. Because you could just get on Google,
right.
Google Earth,
and dial it in.
Like, what are these guys doing? Like going like this? Because they were hitting like every empty patch. They hit the fountain in front of the palace.
Mm.
Yeah, that must have been right on the top of the target. Kill that fountain. All the jokes.
Get the plumber in here.
Yeah, the humor and everything. And then when it hit the, there's a little, it wasn't the main Haji Mart bizarre place in the green zone. It was the table with the tent next to the little mini PX.
Yeah.
The guy would come in and sell the bootleg DVDs that they were taking off of movies. And it took that out. And that was the end.
That's just wrong.
That was the end. And that was like, everybody was very, very serious.
That's where we got Team America. And we were watching it over
They were like morose for like 2 days. Oh, man.
Right.
You know, the hijacked DVD guys, they're not coming back. I need to have you back on.
Oh, I would love to.
You know, there's definitely more stories from Baghdad, sitting up there smoking cigars and
telling lies.
All hell breaks loose. Bullets are flying everywhere. We think go to general quarters. It turns out that the Iraqi soccer team had beat some other nation soccer, and everybody was just celebrating by shooting everything they had in the air. But it looked like World War III had broken out.
But what goes up must come down. And
we're like, what's that? What's that? You know, it's a soccer match.
Yeah.
A lot of macho stuff about the SEALs and the Green Berets, but a lot more funny stories about.
And that's what makes it. You were asking earlier, those funny stories. I think they're the treasure.
Yeah.
You had your pain, you had your misery, you live with things, but those stories if you keep them in the forefront, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. But you had to live the life to have the stories.
Yeah.
Guy?
Thanks, Marty.
Thank you very much for being on the Instincts, man.
Thanks for having me.